Welcome back, viewers. Shahryar Mia, you're a former student of Dr. White. So can you tell us about your experiences while studying at Harvard?
Well, Dr. White gave a very engaging lectures, and I was fascinated by her profile. First of all, you know, she says she's a very curious person. She got an engineering degree. She got a PhD in psychology and a law degree. So when I read her profile in the course outline, I was very curious about her because I suspected she'd have a lot to share from different experiences in different industries. So having taken her class, you know, and if I can introduce her book, The Superstar Roadmap, what I like about the book is that it's not just the concept of leadership that she describes or the various steps you take to become a leader. She talks about various stories, okay, of the 60 celebrated leaders of our time. And these are quite intimate stories of the struggles, challenges, and triumphs that they faced throughout time. And actually, you tend to gain an appreciation that all these leaders were actually very real people with very real problems. So because they were stories, and so interestingly written stories, I still remember to this day the favorites that I picked out from her book: Anita Roddick, the founder of Body Shop, Richard Branson, and Dr. Ben Carson. And they all struggled in different facets and different areas within their lives. And I think those, if any reader who reads the book can read those stories and learn from those lessons and apply them in any context, whether you live in the Middle East or Asia, because at the end of the day, we all face our struggles, and it's really about the steps you take in terms of projecting your own path, getting help, giving help, and being emotionally, having emotional control. That's a whole step in her book that she explains, which I think is quite interesting. So that has been my experience, and you know, I approached Dr. White and said that, you know, I think your book is a great guide to leadership and success and being content with your life, and you know, whether it's in the business world. And I think the last thing that I would say is that the term superstar is of great interest here, because the word leader can be a bit narrow, and people can sort of say that it's only in the business context, whereas superstar is somebody that a housewife can be a superstar in what she does and how she raises her family and success of her kids. So it's quite a broad term and a lot more applicable and interesting. And really it's about the journey of superstars.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk to Dr. White about this, your latest book, The Superstar Roadmap. It says how ordinary people build extraordinary careers. So I'm very fortunate to have this book, Doctor, and especially autographed by you. I'm very honored. And probably you just flown in from US this morning, and you have a few events lined up for today. And one of the events is the book signing ceremony at one of the leading stores in Toronto. So I was going through the contents of the book. Looks very interesting and must be very, I mean, must be a lot of learning. So can you talk a little bit, as Shahryar mentioned a few points, so I would like you to say a few words about your book.
Well, I wrote the book because I became very curious about how people become leaders and what kind of, you know, steps that they take towards leadership. And in part, what I realized even from my own career at one point was that I was floundering to some degree, and I realized that not being a native-born American and living in the U.S., that there were things I didn't know. And so I became curious about what people actually do. How do they become leaders? How do they become really accomplished in whatever they choose to do? So I started doing research, and that led to the book. And so I found that people take a series of steps. It starts with themselves, as I talked about before, and their understanding of who they are and what they have to offer. And I really believe that everybody has special talents, that everyone is unique, and each person has something they can contribute to this world. But often they don't get the opportunity, they don't develop it, because the kind of system that we have doesn't encourage them to develop it. It doesn't encourage people to really look at their strengths and understand the little things that they do well. So I found that was very important. And I found a number of other steps that people who become successful have a general path, but they're very much opportunists. They follow a path where they keep their options always open. So they're open to new opportunities when they arise. Like Jeffrey Bezos, who founded Amazon, he had the sense that the internet was really going to be big. And so even though he's working for computers, he decided to take this risk and start Amazon. And he also talks about taking that kind of risk because one of the things I found about people who are successful is they go out of their comfort zone and they do take these risks. And so his attitude was, he said, I don't want to look back when I'm 80 years old and think that I never tried. And I think, he said, I would rather fail than to look back and say, oh, you know, I let that pass by. So I think there's this element of courage and persistence that I saw in these people, and a willingness to fail. Because another interesting thing that I found when I studied this book was, studied these people, was that everybody fails at some point. Almost every person in that book, and over 60 people,
yeah, I see
made
some big
mistakes.
names here.
Yeah.
Some
Sam
very big
Walton,
names.
who founded Walmart, made a mistake on his lease for his first store, and after he had built it up, after 5 years, he realized he couldn't renew his lease, so he had to just drop that store, move to another town, and start all over again. But I found with leaders and people who become very successful that they accept failure. It's just part of the normal course of life. What's important is to not let it determine what you do next. In other words, to learn from it and move on.
That's
and
right.
try something different. So I found that people who do that are very good at that. They're very good at managing their performance. There's so many things to do in this world that you also have to be very aware of when you need to bring out your A-level game. And so there's things you have to do which are sort of not so important, where you should spend less effort, but at the times when it's really critical and it really counts is when you have to be ready to do your best performance. It's like everybody meets these times when in their lives when they're like at the Olympics, at their personal Olympics. And if you want a gold medal, you have to be ready for that point.
That's right.
But another thing that was interesting about people who become leaders is they had great passion for what they did, and they really love what they do. So when you look at them, it's like Bill Clinton, who loved campaigning. I mean, when his wife started to run for president in the U.S., he was right out there campaigning. And it's also one of his many strengths, because he's very good at making a connection with people in just like 1 minute.
1 minute, yeah.
Talking to someone and they feel like they really know him.
Yeah,
So,
quite charismatic and, you know.
yeah, exactly. So my book looks at, it goes through the steps that people take, and what the stress is really on the strategies and techniques that people use to become leaders and to build successful careers. And so what I say in the back of the book is that you don't need to change who you are. What you really need to do is to change what you do.
What you do. Oh,
And my
that's
whole
right.
focus on leadership and looking at leaders is, what do they do? What are the actions that they take? What are the behaviors? How do they think about things? What are their approaches? And so, and these are things that anybody can copy or mimic, so that everybody can become more successful in their lives and by learning these techniques. And maybe they want to develop their own, but it gives you this sort of idea of doing rather than having to be a certain type of person or to look a certain way or talk a certain way.
That's right.
Or to have gone to a certain type of school. I mean, many of these people in here, interestingly enough, I'm not sure if anyone in there went to Harvard. I would say most of them went to small schools.
Small schools.
Yeah, they were not academic superstars.
Yeah.
I guess Bill Gates went to Harvard, but he left after a year.
I see Bill Gates' name
He ended up a college dropout, and some of them never went to college.
That's right.
So it's important, I think, to realize that leadership is, as I mentioned before, is that when someone becomes a leader, I think it's a case that it's what they do, and that's also how I picked people. I picked people who had accomplished concrete things that were valuable to the world around them and that made a difference. So I excluded people who were maybe just publicity people, who you see on your television screen, who are famous but don't necessarily accomplish anything of value to others, which was the other thing I found about leaders, is that they're very aware of the importance that if you want to be a leader or you want to be successful, you need to do something that has value, that adds value to the lives of other people. And I think that somehow or other today, you see even a lot of businesses where I always look at them and I ask, well, what value does it add to people's lives? And it's a good question in terms of whether it'll survive or not. And also for leaders, what have they done that because if you can add value to the lives of other people, they will always want to follow you.
That's right. Yes, you very rightly said that. I 100% agree with you, and I'm sure our viewers will also agree. Just quickly, you're also the CEO of Workplace Intelligence, which was founded in 2001.
Work Intelligence.
Work Intelligence, yeah. So what is that? Just briefly, just quickly tell us.
Mainly does executive training and leadership, and also virtual teams.
Okay.
So it's more, what it is really, I bring in people from Harvard to do training when I can't do it myself.
I know. I'm sure. I know you're quite busy, and
But the idea is to mainly training and also to do workplace analysis. Oftentimes with consulting, people already have a solution when they come into your organization, and without ever understanding the problem.
Okay, that's great.
Which is, I think, important.
Okay, so you're here for, a few events, as I mentioned earlier. So are you conducting any training courses here in Toronto in the next few days? Or
actually, I'm speaking at the Harvard Club, and then I'm doing the book signing, and I'm also doing a radio interview.
Okay.
And then another dinner event while I'm here.
Okay, so I think I must attend one of your training courses. I need that. And this Superstar Roadmap, our friends, you buy this book, read it. It is a very good read, I tell you. It gives you insight of leadership, management, and so many other things. So thank you very much, Dr. White, for coming to our studios and sharing your thoughts and your experiences with us, with our friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
and
for
thank you very
inviting
much,
me.
Sharia.
Thank you.
Thank you
for having us.
So dear viewers, आपने डॉक्टर वाइट की बातें सुनी. I hope कि आपको उनकी experiences से, उनकी जो teachings हैं, उनसे काफ़ी आपको फ़ायदा हासिल होगा. ये book है, please you must buy this book and read it. Superstar Roadmap. इसमें बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिलेगा आपको. इसको बाय कीजिए और पढ़िए और अपनी लाइब्रेरी की जीनत बनाइए. तो असफर ताहिर को इजाज़त दीजिए. आपसे आइंदा फिर मुलाकात होगी. खुदा हाफिज़.